Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going deep, kind of diving into some choppy waters, you could say.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. President Biden's decision to commute, like a whole bunch of sentences for those on federal death row.
A lot of reaction to that, huh?
Oh, tons. We've got two articles here that lay out not just like the what he did, but the whoa from everyone afterwards.
Makes sense. It's not every day something like this happens.
Exactly. And this isn't some simple legal thing, This
Mm.
opens up this huge debate about capital punishment, the death penalty. Is it ever right? What about all the victims' families? So much to unpack.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Because you're right. It's not just about these specific people. I mean, 37 inmates, right?
Right.
But it's like Biden just threw gasoline on this fire that's been like smoldering in America forever. This whole question of what's prison for, punishment or
Right.
trying to make people better.
Right. Okay, so to be clear, Biden commuted the sentences, meaning from death to life in prison, no parole.
Mm.
But, and this is important,
Oh, yeah, I got to make that distinction.
this is only federal death row.
Ugh.
Okay? Not the over 2,250 people in states that still have the death penalty themselves.
Big difference. And, this isn't something a future president can just undo. Like, that alone shows how much this decision
Yeah.
it carries weight, could change the whole system down the line.
For sure. Now, Biden's reasoning here, that's key. He talks about good conscience, says he's personally against the death penalty, and even mentions, like, what if executions start up again under the incoming Trump administration?
It's strategic, too, right? Like, he's drawing a line, especially after the Trump administration. They oversaw, 13 federal executions?
Yeah, I think that's right.
So Biden's saying, at least at the federal level, things are changing. We're shifting gears, not eye for an eye anymore. Now it's about rehabilitation, supposedly.
Makes you wonder, is this the start of something bigger? I mean, 23 states have already gotten rid of the death penalty. 6 more have, like, paused it.
True, true. But it's not so simple. Most states haven't, and public opinion, man, it's split right down the middle.
No surprise, then, that the reactions were intense, to say the least. Let's start with those who are, generally against the death penalty.
A lot of praise for Biden, calling it moral leadership. They see this as a step towards ending federal executions completely.
And there's support from places you wouldn't expect, like Jean Schmidt. She was a GOP congresswoman.
No kidding.
Yeah, and she was at the Boston Marathon bombing. Now she's saying Tsarnaev, the bomber, shouldn't be executed. Life in prison, that's enough.
It's interesting, though, right? Because even within the anti-death penalty groups, there's this feeling that Biden didn't go far enough. Some wanted him to commute all the sentences, no exceptions. Shows how complex this is.
Oh, absolutely. And then, well, you got the other side, Trump, his supporters, not holding back at all.
Understatement. Stephen Chung, Trump's communications director, didn't mince words, called it a slap in the face to the victims.
And some Republican lawmakers, they're going beyond just words. Senator Tom Cotton, he's accusing Democrats of siding with criminals, flat out. Wants investigations into if this was even legal.
And Chip Roy, he's a representative, he brings up a big point, right? Is this, like, Biden overstepping, presidential power? How far does it go? When does it cross the line? The courts doing their job.
Something to think about, for sure. Rule of law, all that. But we can't forget the human side of all this, the victims' families, their emotions. Raw doesn't even cover it. And their perspective, we need to hear that.
For sure. You've got Heather Turner, for example. Her mother was murdered, bank robbery, and the guy who did it, his sentence was commuted. She talked about feeling disregarded, hurt, frustrated, and the timing, like right around Christmas, made it even worse.
And she's a believer in the death penalty, sees it as, like, the only just punishment for taking a life. Which brings us to Billy Allen. He's one of the inmates whose sentence got commuted. He's always said he's innocent, by the way, of the charges against him.
The 1997 bank robbery and murder case.
That's the one.
Yeah.
But anyway, Allen was obviously relieved. Talked about using this chance to make things right. To find, like, redemption. What does justice look like here? Hard question. Then you've got Reverend Sharon Risher. Remember, her family was killed in the Charleston church shooting.
Awful, awful tragedy.
And she's actually calling for Dylan Roof's sentence to be commuted, too.
Wow. Really adds another layer to this, doesn't it? She says you can't rank victims. Like, is there any way to balance justice for them with the whole morality of capital punishment itself?
It's like this decision opened Pandora's box, ethically speaking. And we've only just started.
It really hits you. How these reactions, they show us how split America is on this. What does justice even mean, especially for these kinds of crimes?
It's like we're all wrestling with this question. Can we punish people? but still believe they can change.
And buy-in's basically saying, at least for the feds, yeah. Maybe second chances matter more than just, like, pure punishment.
Which makes me think about those states we mentioned, the ones that got rid of the death penalty completely. Seems like a real movement pushing against it.
Oh, for sure, but majority of states still have it.
Right.
And the public, deeply divided. It's one of those topics that cuts deep, you know?
Yeah.
Morality, what's the point of the legal system, the whole thing.
And it's not just theoretical, right? We're talking about real lives here. The people who did these crimes, yeah. But the families, too. All that pain, the loss.
Absolutely. One thing that got to me looking at these cases was the sheer variety. Like, why these people ended up on death row in the first place. Murders during robberies, murders in prison, even killing a prison guard.
Makes you wonder, is there even a way to have one standard of punishment that fits all those situations?
That's the struggle, right, with any justice system. And this gets even more complicated because, well, it's the federal system, works different from state courts.
Right, right. So